We're good. We're good to go. Good morning. The House Transportation Committee for March 12th, 2024 is now in session. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Representatives Burkhart, Butler, Camper, Carr, Cochran, Darby, Davis, Glenn, Grills, Harris, Hazelwood, Marsh, Martin, Pearson, Powell, Powers, Rudd, Russell, Sherrill, Towns, Whitson, Wright, Vice Chairman Vital, Chairman Howell. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Any personal orders, announcements from the committee? Yes, you're recognized. Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to recognize my daughter, Kaylin, who's back here with me today. Took off a day of work to come up here and spend the day with her dad.
Welcome. Any other announcements? Let me say we're glad to have Miss Anastasia with us today, sitting in the attorney's chair. Joel was called to other duty, and we appreciate having her. I'm looking, there she come. I was getting ready to roll her bill to the hill. Our first item on the agenda is item number 1, House Bill 1228, and her timing is excellent. There is Chair Lady Littleton. You are recognized, ma'am. We have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Y'all sure did meet early. It does have an amendment on it.
Okay, what is your amendment number?
14451.
That's what I have. Let's, without objection, we have a motion and a second on the amendment. Without objection, we're voting on the amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill. Now you can explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This reconstitutes the membership of the South Central Tennessee Railroad Authority, or authorizes county and city mayors who are members to the authority to appoint one additional member each to the board rather than the governing body of each county and city.
All right, you've heard the explanation of the bill. Any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we will vote on House Bill 1228. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Your bill goes to Finance.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Chairman
very
and committee.
much. Item number 2, House Bill 2062 has been rolled 1 week. That takes us down to item number 3, House Bill 1623 by Representative Hale. I see he is in the back of the building. You're up, sir. We have a motion and a second on your bill. It looks like we have an amendment as well.
Yes, sir. The amendment 014324.
That's what I have. I have a motion and second on the amendment. Without objection, we're voting on the amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill. Please explain the bill to us, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. House Bill 1623 simply allows for schools to be able to, during the heavy traffic times of pickup and drop off, to be able to, the locals can appoint or hire. Of course, there's certain qualifications, training, qualified with the MUTCD, wear a visibility reflective apparel, use a stop paddle that complies with the MUTCD. As TDOT had mentioned, they said currently it's kind of like the Wild West out there, and this would bring it into uniformity, and they did come up with the language and helped us to work this bill when we started with it, and so this will just be able to bring that into uniformity.
Very good. You've heard the explanation. Representative Glenn, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Hale. One question, you said the locals can hire or the school will hire the crossing guard?
It would be the local municipality or the local government.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Without objection, we're voting on House Bill 1623. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Your bill goes to Finance, sir. Thank you for getting up early and being with us.
Thank you.
Item number 4, House Bill 2023 by Representative Barrett. Boy, everybody's timing is amazing this morning. 2034. I missed the bill number 2034. Representative, do I have a motion and second? Have a motion and a second on your bill. Do you have an amendment, sir?
There is an amendment, Mr. Chairman, should be traveling with the bill.
Okay. We have to adopt it here. What is your bill number? I
I
mean, your
have
amendment.
drafting code 014078.
That's what I have. We have a motion second on the bill. We're without objection voting on the amendment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The amendment's on the bill. Please explain, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under current state law, Tennessee issues temporary driver's licenses to non-U.S. citizens that are here for any federal purpose or for a specified period of time. All they have to have is authorization from the federal government. And so what this bill is going to do right now, currently under the law, we issue those licenses for as long as 8 years. This will reduce that time period down to 2 years. So every 2 years, they would have to come back in to renew their license.
You've heard the explanation. Any questions or comments? Representative Pearson.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, sponsor. This was brought before the subcommittee, and actually, Representative Glenn had mentioned a couple of things that I just want to parse out here just a little bit. One is, as it relates to the authorization that they're given federally to be able to come and to work in the state. Were you able to see or find out either through the Department of Homeland Security or others if it was possible for the state to receive notification of individuals who had overstayed sort of their visa if you keep the process in place?
You're recognized.
So there is a report that Department of Homeland Security puts out every year. Unfortunately, the last one that they produced was from fiscal year 20. And so that report tells us every year how many immigrants that are coming in through the process, either through a port of entry or through land.
Mhm.
And the documentation that's being passed out is multiple. There's many different ways. It can be a student visa, a work visa. They could be here for vacation, but then there's also other statuses that are given to folks that are coming in even not through the proper channels. So all of that goes together into that report each year. And what I've seen or what I've been able to find out is we're looking at roughly between $650 and $750,000 or 750,000 overstays per year
In Tennessee?
in the U.S.
Yes. Okay. The other thing that I think was raised that cautions me to this is there are some folks who are coming here. They have gotten the appropriate documentation. They are working in our state legally. They have been given identification for 8 years, and we are now inconveniencing them every 2 years or every other year, just about. They're having to come back to a DMV or something like that, despite the fact that they went through all the appropriate and the correct channels to be able to be in our state, to be able to work in our state, to be able to contribute to it. And so how are you weighing the inconvenience that we're causing to people who have done everything, as you would argue, legally, with the time that they're having to take away to then go and get recertified as though they are a criminal or something like that? How are you considering that?
You're recognized.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. So there aren't any visas that are being issued for 8 years. So as I mentioned, the different types of visas that you can get issued authorization from the federal government, a vacation visa or somebody here on a temporary holiday is only for up to 90 days. Student visas typically are for the length of time that they're in school. That can be either 2 to 4 years for most cases. And the vast majority of business related visas are only good for 2 years. So again, this is going to line up with the majority of the folks that we have here coming anyway that are here legally. Every 2 years, they're going to have to renew their visa, and that this will require them to come back to the state and also update us with the information that they have.
And my last question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Is it possible that this legislation could be adapted to the point where you would have, based on the visa that a person gets, that would dictate their time for having to come back? So if the visa is only for, say, 4 years or 7 years, then that's the length of time that the license would be able to be extended, so that it wouldn't be just 2 years for everybody, but it would be more aligned to sort of their requirements. Thank you. The requirements for the time that they be here.
Go ahead.
So currently under law, the the law states that temporary licenses are only as good as the authorization that they have.
Mhm.
But the problem that we have is that some of these authorizations get revoked or they overstay past that time period. And when they still have a license, they can move freely throughout the U.S. with that license. It doesn't state on its face that it's invalid at that point.
Mhm.
So they'd have to be pulled over or somehow investigated in order to find out that that license was no longer valid. So what we're trying to do here is limit that period of time between an overstay when the visa is revoked or they've overstayed and when that license expires, so that they're coming back in to check up, they're updating their information, their address, their photograph, the whole 9 yards.
I appreciate you answering the questions, and we talked a little bit about this in subcommittee. I still got a couple of reservations. I really think, something that might pair more to them having it associated with the time that they're here with their visa would be something that I could understand. My challenge also is look, it's almost you're pre-penalizing people. They haven't done anything wrong, and we're adding sort of burdens to them. People who are here legally, people who have went through the visa process, and so adding sort of a new requirement for them to have to do this is something that I don't think that I'll be able to support at this point. But I appreciate you being willing to answer questions.
Representative, I would just say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Moving on, Chairman Whitson, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, sponsor. And I really appreciate how you have worked with us in the Department of Safety on this bill. I think it's a great bill that you have developed. And I just want to say we made sure with the Department of Safety that a 2-year requirement does not overload the driver license stations. They can handle that additional workload. And I think this lines up perfectly with the intent of your legislation, and I just fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Davis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, committee. Sorry, I'm short, guys. But to the sponsor, when you have someone who's underage, their driver's license is a little bit different from someone who is 21 or older. And so I just remember when my son got his, I noticed it and I said, oh, it's oriented a different way. And so just that little subtle difference allows for someone, especially like at a convenience store or at a grocery store, to recognize and realize, well, this person's underage and they can't purchase alcohol because they're not of age. And so I think that what you're trying to accomplish does the same thing. It's allowing for someone to take a little bit of a different, to take a moment or two notice to recognize and realize that it is a little bit of a different license. And just like when we have CDLs and stuff like that, you kind of have to look for that little tiny, difference. This allows for that to be a little bit more recognizable. And so I appreciate what you're trying to accomplish.
You're
Thank you.
recognized.
Thank you, Representative Davis. Now, we have, with this amendment, we've kind of taken the redesign portion out of this. We're only going to reduce the time period that the driver's license is valid. Currently, the license that's issued does have an X indicated on there that law enforcement looks at. I've talked with Department of Safety, and there would be a fiscal impact with us to go through a redesign right now, which this is clearly not the year to be looking at fiscal impacts. So this really pairs that out so that we don't have to deal with the fiscal implications, and we can come back in future years and look and see if there's a better way for us to indicate on that license who and what we're dealing with.
Question has been called on the bill without objection. We are voting on the bill. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. If you wish to be recorded as a no, please see the clerk. Your bill goes to finance, sir.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 5 by Chairman Clemens. House Bill 2175. We have a motion and a second on your bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. This bill would establish a student pedestrian protection grant program within TDOT. Purpose of the program would be to provide grants to local governments to be used solely for designing, constructing, and repairing or replacing sidewalks infrastructure around public schools. I've got several public schools, as do many of you, in both urban and rural areas of the state that aren't on state highways and don't qualify for other state grant programs for that purpose. And we've got little kids walking and on the side of the road and in ditches to get to and from school. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would ask for passage of this legislation.
Okay, I believe we do have an amendment. Is that right?
Yes, sir. As amended, I believe it's 14182.
That's the one I have. Do I have a motion? Second? We have a motion and a second on the amendment. Without objection, we're voting on the amendment. All in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill, and I assume you described the bill as amended already.
Yes, sir.
Any questions or comments for the sponsor? Question has been called on the bill. Without objection, we're voting on the bill. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Your bill goes to GovOps.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Thank you very much. Representative Jernigan is up next. Item number 6, House Bill 465, and we have a motion and a second. And I believe I see an amendment, Representative Jernigan. We have a motion. Let's make sure that we have the right number.
Let me get my glasses on.
Oh, you're fine.
Can't see anything. We have 14528.
That's what I have.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second on the amendment. Let's vote on the amendment without objection. All in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill. Now, please explain it to us.
Thank you, Chairman, Committee. Good to be up with you this morning. You're better than coffee. Okay, so members, as this bill is amended, it requires the Department of Revenue to annually cross-reference with the Department of Health and the Office of Vital Records to verify that the owner of each disabled placard is not deceased. And if they are found deceased, then it will invalidate the placard beginning January 1st, 2025. I think our goal here is to make sure that these disabled placards don't become heirlooms. I'm going to pass along. So that's what the bill does, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, you've heard the explanation. Questions, Representative Powers. Representative Powers has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did have a question for you.
Sure.
This is for somebody that's died, and then you're not trying to tell us anything, are you, in this bill?
No.
That we don't know?
No,
You're doing okay?
I'm very healthy. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Mr.
for your
Chairman.
concern, Chairman.
Question has been called on the bill. All in favor of House Bill 465, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Your bill goes to Calendar and Rules.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank
Good to
you.
see you.
Representative Jernigan. Item number 7 by Representative Grills, House Bill 2766. You're recognized. That's your seat, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And committee, I believe I have an amendment going with this bill there.
Yes, you
Chairman
do.
Hill.
What
I
is your
have
number?
14278.
That is correct. I have a motion and a second on the amendment without objection. We'll vote on the amendment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill. Please explain your bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. This bill, the genesis of this bill, I had 3 different people in my district this past year come to me and say something about the hardship license process. One was in the south part of the town, or of my district, the middle part of my district, the northern part of my district. And they said there's a huge problem whenever we want to get a hardship license for our children. And that's that they have to drive to Memphis for 30 hours of training and then 6 hours of 30 hours of classroom training and 6 hours of driver's training. Well, that takes up a lot of weekend time, and they have to do it consecutively, apparently. So what my bill does, it says if you live over 30 miles from a training facility, that you can take the classroom portion online. You would still have to go to that school to take the 6 hours of driver's training, but the classroom portion would be available online. Worked with the Department of Safety on this to come to this agreement. Leader Lamberth asked me to put the 30 miles radius in there, and that's the reason that amendment goes on. That's what it did. But with that, I'll do everything I can to answer any questions.
All right. You've heard the explanation. Representative Pearson, you're recognized.
Thank you so much. And just for clarity, Representative Grills, we talked about this in subcommittee. The only challenge that I have with this legislation is the fact that it says and a resident would have to be 30 or more miles away. So discrimination in this way. It just really means for people who are 30 or more miles versus people who are 29 miles away or less. And the training that somebody would get if they were 29 miles away in person is very similar for those first 30 hours to the training an individual who lives 1 mile away from them would get. In talking, and so when you spoke with Leader Lambert, because I know you even said this up to me, this is the only reason why we have this 30 miles thing. Was there any rationale that was given as to why somebody who's 30 miles away should be allowed to do it online or in person versus someone who's 29 miles away being forced only to go in person and not have the flexibility of being able to take the class online?
You recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just say that I don't know what Leader Lambert was thinking, but when working, whatever his position was, is that was his. But I know what I agreed to with Leader Lambert, and my word means more to me than what I may think he was thinking, if that makes sense. So when we agreed walking out of his office that day, my intention is to put the amendment on the bill, and since then I haven't thought anything about it.
Okay. So here's the thing that I would think about colleagues, and I will offer this, and maybe not today. The legal's writing up amendment. There were two thoughts that we had in subcommittee that were really worth considering, and I appreciate you having some integrity, and I do understand when you agree to do something. I think that does matter. But in talking with the Department of Safety as well, 15 to 16-year-olds today are allowed to do their training online. There'll be 1 year difference. They have no concern if this service was actually open to everybody. No concern about our safety, no concern about our roads. And so the 30 miles is really arbitrary as it relates to the point that we care mostly about, which is our roads being safer and providing that accessibility to more people instead of fewer is something that I think we should do. There was a comment made in our subcommittee that maybe this is a trial or something like that. And I do wonder if you would consider if the legislation had this 30 miles provision, maybe for its first year, but then subsequent to the Department of Safety saying it's okay, that requirement might go away. Because what I'm thinking about is, like, it is much easier for folks to get on their computer and do this than it is to have their parents have to drive them to a facility. And if there's no public safety interest on our roads that's at stake by having all people have access to this, I really do think it deserves more consideration about why we would have this requirement. What would you think about that?
You recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see your point. I understand your point, and I agree with some of what you're saying. But the agreement that I had when I left Leader Lambert's office that day was to put this amendment on the bill, and for that reason, that's the direction I'm going, because I shook his hand and agreed to it. So therefore, all debate is over with me in regards to that.
Okay. So you wouldn't consider sort of another provision that says we keep this 30-mile requirement for a year, and then assuming there's no change in our public safety, there's no concern from the Department of Safety, then the 30-mile provision goes away? You're just, no matter what, we're just going to do this, despite the fact that it won't make the street safer, the road safer, and it keeps inaccessibility from everybody who might be able to take this and do this lesson online?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I understand what you're saying, but I want you to understand me. I shook his hand and told him this is what I was going to do, and I didn't tell him that I would have any. Then a year that I'd be willing to remove this provision, or 2 years. That's my intention, was to make this into law the way that the amendment says. So when I left his office, that's what I agreed to, and that's where I am.
Sponsor,
And if the committee wishes to do something different as a committee, that's perfectly cool, but I can't do anything, and I can't agree to anything other than what I've already told Leader Lambert that I was going to do.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, sponsor, for answering the questions. I mean, I will talk with legal, offer an amendment, and before the committee of the whole, I'll propose it, I reckon. But I think part of this work that we do together, right? It's like you hear more information, you make better decisions, you get more inputs. And so if you learn that something that could be accessible to everyone won't have a negative ramification, you could have a conversation again with your leader and say, hey, I learned some new information. Thus, I want to make a better, more informed decision. And I just don't understand why we wouldn't do that. Why that seems so complicated is very confusing to me. But I appreciate you being willing to answer the questions. And thank you, Chairman.
If I might offer a suggestion, this could be considered sort of a trial period for 1 year. Anybody can bring a bill next year and extend this 30 days or 30 miles to infinity if they could work an agreement with safety. So moving on, are there any other questions? Question has been called on the bill. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. If you wish to record it as a nay, please see the clerk, and your bill goes to Calendar and Rules. Moving on to item number 8, House Bill 2128 by Representative Wright. Have a motion and a second.
Mr. Chairman, may I present?
Absolutely. Help yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Committee. This is House Bill 2128, authorizes issuance of an antique motor vehicle license plate to a farm truck older than 25 years that are used in agricultural purpose, not for general transportation. Has to be a vehicle with a non-modified engine and non-modified body. In subcommittee, I gave several examples of what the use could be. It's like transportation between two parcels. It could be to haul off the farm trash. It could be to get farm supplies, move livestock to market. And the word farm truck in this instance means a panel truck, pickup truck, or a sport utility vehicle not more than 7,500 pound. Comes with 2 stipulations. The owner has to have another vehicle that's used for general transportation. And at the application must provide the location, acreage of the farm or land being used for agricultural purpose and what's being cultivated. There is also a penalty for misuse. You forfeit the antique motor vehicle registration and be liable for the regular registration fee. And you'd be barred for 5 years from holding. And
Question has been called. Question has been called on the bill. I guess there's agreement that we need to move on this bill, Representative Wright. Question has been called. Without objection, we are voting on the bill. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Your bill goes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Your bill goes to finance, sir. Moving on to item number 9, House Bill 2621 by Representative Martin. You recognize, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is an amendment. I believe it's traveling with the bill.
We'll have to put it on in this committee. What is your number?
014229.
That's what I have. Do I have a motion second? I have a motion and a second on the amendment. Without objection, we're voting on the amendment. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Amendments on the bill, please explain.
This legislation came to me after I was in a government operations meeting and we were looking at an audit of the railroad and in the government operations committee. And it was discovered that there was a fee implemented years ago that had a range between $10 and $100, which seems so minuscule in today's economy. And as we dug a little further, discovered that this fee had not been implemented, had not really been fined on anyone all the way back to 1980 and perhaps even before that. That's about as far back as we could go. So it seems as though it's irrelevant. Republicans believe in smaller government. I think it's great for us to eliminate this part of the code. And so that's really what this bill is doing.
You've heard the explanation. Any questions? Seeing none, we're voting on the bill. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Your bill goes to Calendar and Rules. Last item, House Bill number 2070 by Chairman Whitson. I believe you're carrying this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the amendment.
And the amendment I show, Mr. Chairman, is 014337.
Let me back up. I think we, 143, yes, that's it. Did I get a motion on the bill first? Have a motion and a second on the bill. Now let's get a motion and second on the amendment. We have a motion second on the amendment. We're going to vote on the amendment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Amendment is on the bill. So Chairman Clemens, we'll go back to you.
Or-
Whitson,
Yeah.
I was looking at the
I'm
second name
hoping
on
for
the
a
list.
Dave Ride type bill here.
My eyes, I believe,
But Mr.
Go ahead.
Chairman and committee, Mr. Chairman Committee, this requires TDOT to submit a report on TDOT's progress on passenger and freight rail and public transportation efforts at the state and federal levels to this committee and the Senate Committee on Transportation, the chief clerks of each chamber, and the legislative librarian. I feel this report will help this committee in the future make an informed decision on issues regarding passenger and freight rail service in Tennessee. With that, I renew my motion.
all right. Any questions? Question has been called. Without objection, we're going to vote on House Bill 2070. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The bill goes to calendar and rules. Members, that completes our calendar. Yes, it does. Do I have a motion? We are adjourned. That was easy.